President Trump needs to make some tough decisions about Iran in the coming days. But while our focus is again on the Middle East, we cannot forget the current conflict with China. The Chinese are the greatest threat to our national security. And yes, I said the current conflict, because what may have been a Cold War is starting to look like anything but. You know, folks, when Marxists set out to infiltrate our institutions, they started with higher education, and it was a smart move. Today, those schools are a bastion of left-wing, often anti-American ideology that play to their foreign students while continuing to erode American identity and values. American universities are more and more not American at all, but view themselves as global institutions that are not tied to American values. Many of those global citizens that they want to create are leftists from Europe and, of course, the children of China's Communist Party leaders. According to a recent report by the Wall Street Journal, 277,000 students from Communist China are studying at America's university. Quote, China remains the largest buyer of education-related services, including spending on tuition and books from the U.S. at $14.3 billion in 2023, the journal reported. Students from Communist China aren't just flooding the halls of Harvard. Take a look at this. While nearly 1/4 of the foreign students at Harvard are from China, that number approaches 50% at Columbia and Cornell and Duke, according to the journal's analysis. We are literally training the next generation of leaders of our greatest strategic adversary in our own country and denying American seats at those institutions to do it. Now, when you consider that the per capita annual income of the average Chinese citizen is less than $14,000 a year, it becomes very clear that these students who pay full tuition at these schools are being either subsidized heavily by the CCP or are members of the elite ruling class connected to the party. Every one of those students needs permission from the communist government to leave the country, and they all must accede to the government's directives to provide information or conduct even subtle espionage operations should they be requested to do so by the government. Now, look, Democrats are going to tell you that restrictions on these students are horrible because we want the best and the brightest to come here to study. It's true. These kids aren't registering for gender studies classes. They leave that nonsense to us. The Chinese are teaching their kids English and through their social credit system encouraging stronger academic performance. We value teachers' unions and screen time and walkouts and protesting and teaching kids Spanish for some strange reason. Chinese are pushing science and engineering. But Americans should be asking, what is the price that we are paying to provide this access? We would never allow the Soviets this kind of access to our universities and research centers, real estate markets and industries, the way that we do Communist China. It needs to stop, Mr. President. The idea that we will somehow convert these kids, paid for by the CCP, into lovers of democracy may have been a noble dream decades ago, but our chasing it has undoubtedly made us significantly weaker as a nation. President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio are right to do something about Harvard and other CCP so-called party schools, but restoring our leverage against Communist China must go beyond that. Today, the Chinese provide 88% of all of the active ingredients in our pharmaceuticals. So get this, the industry that has a vested interest in keeping us sick or hooked on medications is beholden to a nation that has a vested interest in weakening our population. Communist China is also a major source of the food additives like citric acid and sorbic acid and xylitol and monosodium glutamate and folic acid used in our industrialized processed foods that are thought to be making us sicker. The increases in those food additive exports from China began in 1979, but they have ballooned in recent years. In 2013, China's WH Group bought the iconic American brand Smithfield Foods. That's right, folks. China owns your Nathan's hot dog now, too. Two alleged CCP operatives were recently captured attempting to smuggle an agri-terrorism weapon into the United States that could wipe out crops and cause severe illness in humans. One of the alleged spies received funding from the Chinese government for a fellowship at the University of Michigan. Let's be clear, folks. Every Chinese-linked company is linked to the CCP. The Communist Party has the absolute right to direct that company, appropriate its assets, and mine its data at will. While left-wing Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs and other Democrats may not think it's a problem, the Chinese now own such iconic buildings as the Waldorf Astoria and the landmark Chase Manhattan Plaza in New York City, among other properties, along with nearly 400,000 acres of farmland across the country. A Chinese concern even purchased President Trump's alma mater, the former New York Military Academy near West Point, reportedly in an effort to push influence operations in the United States. Restrictions on Chinese ownership of real property of any kind deserves serious consideration from the Trump administration and Congress. Rooting out Chinese operatives in our government and among government contractors must also be a top priority for the administration. We should have no doubt that, like the Soviets and the KGB before it, the CCP and its various intelligence services have infiltrated our government. Deep state thinking, after all, is very much in line with the communist statist philosophy, and it is incompatible with the maintenance of American freedom. Even the anti-ICE riots have been in part fueled by taxpayer-funded groups, some of whom likely have ties to the CCP. China is at war with this country, folks. It's not a Cold War. It is a multi-tactical operation that is active, aggressive, broader, and deeper than our competition with the Soviets that was largely predicated on an arms race. It must be countered, move by move, whether the markets, the media, and weak-kneed politicians in Washington like it or not. Success in anything in this life is about leverage. As a nation, we have handed our leverage to our most lethal adversary. Of all the legacies of Trump's remaining time in office, recapturing our leverage over communist China could be the most significant for our national security and our freedom.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.